And okay, so consumer optimization utility is basically referring to how exactly a consumer perceives things. Like in most of microecons, we'll be looking at how exactly a supplier would supply goods or maximize profit. But in the case of this chapter specifically, we're looking at the perspective of the consumer. It's important to recognize this because we'll be looking at basically the average consumer, like like people like us who are buying products. So it's important that we recognize that this topic is focused on perspective of the consumers. So before I go on with this, I just want to check on everyone. How is everyone's doing on this topic, considering optimization utility, on a scale of 1 to 5? 1 being you feel like you need a lot of help, 5 being you feel like you completely understand it.
Cool.
Youngmin is 2. Rishikesh, what about you? Okay,
Two.
Rishikesh. Okay, 2. All right. So let's talk about utility first. What is utility, right? So utility is basically this unit that we use to define satisfaction. So utility is not something that can be easily measured. But for the sake of econs, we kind of assume a measurement for it. And in the case of this one, utility refers to like the amount of satisfaction a consumer gains by purchasing a product. So if let's say, for example, I I decide I'm interested in buying a 5 ringgit burger. And for me, a burger has a utility of like let's say 10. That means I'm basically getting like 10 times the value. I mean not 10 times the value, uh 2 times the value. Because notice that when I have the 5 ringgit burger, what happens is that I have 10 utility to 5 ringgit. So utility is a bit hard to measure, but the best way I can explain it is essentially, let's say for example you're buying okay, maybe a better example would be, let's say you're buying a Subway. Buying Subway, okay? And if you're buying a sandwich from Subway that's like 10 ringgit, uh if let's say you believe that the if you think that the Subway is exactly worth the price, like it's not, you don't like gain nor lose anything, then the thing is you're gonna perceive it this way, where it's 10 utility to RM10. So basically you'll notice that your Subway is like 1 utility for 1 ringgit, basically. So that's kind of like what we're thinking about when we say utility. Utility is kind of like just like a unit of satisfaction, but it's a bit hard to quantify satisfaction. So the best way I can put it is like, oh, 10 utility equals to 10 ringgit. So if you feel like the utility is exactly the value of the price, then that means that if let's say you feel like your Subway is exactly worth the price of it, then you would say that the utility of the Subway is equal to the price of the Subway. So in this case, 10 utility to 10 ringgit. Or if let's say, for example, you have a candy, uh, maybe like a 2 ringgit chocolate. Of course, it won't be as satisfying to you, but as compared to like a Subway, because Subway is filling, whereas the chocolate is like a small item that won't really fill you up that much. But you can still say it's worth it because the utility is still the same as the price of the chocolate. So for example, chocolate is 2 ringgit, then you can say that the chocolate was 2 utility. But if let's say you think your chocolate is really nice, like I find this chocolate really delicious, then maybe you'll perceive it as 6 utility. Like maybe it's worth more than the price, in your opinion. So yeah, utility is just a measure of the satisfaction. The amount of satisfaction of consumer gains by purchasing a product, essentially. Okay, scale of 1 to 5. How does everyone feel about this? About the idea of utility? Just type in chat or unmute. You don't need to tell me scale of 1 to 5 for a chapter entirely, just about utility specifically.
Clear.
All right. Rishikesh, Ann Hyukjun. Sorry. Also, hello, Ann Hyukjun. Welcome, welcome. I just noticed you came. Wait, how is everyone feeling? Scale of 1 to 5.
4.
4. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so which question do you guys have on this? Like, what do you guys want to ask about utility? Okay, if no questions, then we're gonna talk about one more thing, right? So let's talk about the law of diminishing marginal utility. Probably a better question is, let's talk about marginal utility. What do you guys know about marginal utility? Anyone? I just
No.
explained it on words here. Youngmin, do you have an idea?
No.
Hmm. Rasuya? Rishikesh? Do you have any idea what marginal utility would be?
Uh, Marginal utility. I don't. I think I know a little bit, but yeah, just explain it.
Yeah, sure, sure. So marginal utility is referring to the additional utility gain when you uh increase when you add one more quantity of the product. This is a bit hard to show. So uh one more quantity of product. I'll try to like show like what I mean by this. So for example, let's say I give you a table and I in this case I'm telling like how many burgers should I buy? Maybe not burgers lah. Let's say sushi because sushi is a bit more understandable. I say sushi because you wouldn't buy more than one burger usually for a meal. But yeah. So quantity, let's say we have the quantity on the left side. I'll just type it out actually. So let's say we have quantity. And this is also a good intro to like reading the tables for this kind of chapter. So we have the quantity. We have your total utility. And we can say like your marginal utility. In this case, we're gonna be looking at sushi. So of course, uh let's say for example, if you want to be so in this case, one thing you might want to know about, I mean, I think you guys might have noticed this when you eat, but usually when you eat, the first bite will be the most satisfying one. Like let's say you just ran like 10 kilometers for some reason. If let's say you did a really big exercise, usually when you go for lunch right after that, your first bite will be super satisfying. So in this case, you can say, for example, okay, let's start, we're gonna start with zero quantity. Uh, Also this is NA. Uh, so for let's say we add one, we eat one bite, one piece of sushi. So your first bite will usually be like the most satisfying. So let's say it will have a total utility of like 20, for example. I didn't include the price. I probably should include the price actually. Let's say one sushi is about 1 ringgit. Damn it. Price. Price is important in this part because it plays into our graph later on. So let's say we eat one piece of sushi. In this case, our price, the price of sushi will always be okay. Actually, no, price does not usually doesn't play in the table. The price of one sushi is just gonna be 1 ringgit. That's what you need to know. That's the important part. So let's say, for example, uh, your first bite of sushi, it'll be so satisfying that I feel like if you spend 5 ringgit on sushi, you would buy it anyway because it's satisfying. Like the utility gain is like let's say 5. So your marginal utility is referring to your change in quantity. Uh, Always remember this one. It's Q1 minus Q0 over wait, no, sorry. It's your utility first. Your TU1 over T minus TU0 over Q1 minus Q0. How exactly does it work? Right? I'll show it to you in a bit. But basically in this case, you'll see, oh, 5 minus 0, 1 minus 0 equal 5 over 1 equals to 5. Your marginal utility is referring to how much did the utility increase. So in this case, it's 5. Then, of course, you can continue to quantity maybe 2. I eat another sushi. But my second sushi is not as satisfying as the first because the first one I ate on an empty stomach. And when I eat sushi on an empty stomach, it's extremely satisfying to me. But if, let's say my second one is still nice, of course, since I'm still very hungry. Maybe I'll say like four. Maybe it's like maybe I have total utility after that of 9.5. So you'll notice that the second sushi had a marginal utility of 4.5. You'll also calculate that this way, where it's like, oh, TU1 minus TU0. In this case, you're right, 9.5. This 9, by the way. Sorry. 9.5 minus 5 over 2 minus 1 is equal to 4.5 over 1 equal 4.5. Keep in mind that even if you notice that the quantity at the bottom is always going to be 1, you still need to do the entire calculation anyway for the sake of marking. So yeah. Oh wait, sorry, this is 4. Not bad. Why is my brain lagging? But yeah, your marginal utility you'll notice is only 4.5. In the first one, from 0 to 5, your utility increased by 5. From 5 to 9.5, your utility increased by 4.5. So your marginal utility you'll notice is at the first, your very first sushi bite is extremely satisfying. It's 5. Then later on, it's still super satisfying, but it's not as satisfying as you. So it'll be like 4.5. Then usually this will continue. For example, maybe for quantity 3, you'll have, let's say, 13.5. Then you'll notice the marginal utility will keep decreasing. So yeah, this is what we call, these values here is what we call marginal utility. The utility for each additional product. So at first it's 5, then maybe 4.5, then in this case it'll be 4.0, and then so on and so forth. So with each additional bite, you'll notice that your marginal utility starts to decrease until it gets to a point where, maybe on the fourth sushi I'm like super full. So I'll your fourth sushi might be like, let's say, oh, your marginal utility jumps to become 2.0. Then you only get like 15.5. Then your next one, since you're super full already, like not super full yet, but like we're getting very close to being full. Then your marginal utility might be like, oh, 1.0. In this case, then 16.5. Until at some point you have no more marginal utility. Because like when you're full, obviously if you eat another one, you won't be satisfied anymore. It will make no difference if you eat another piece of sushi when you're full. So at that point, like, let's say on the sixth sushi, you're already super full on the fifth one. Then maybe I'll have marginal utility of 0. Because when I'm already full, I don't really want to eat anymore. So that's pointless. And then at some point, it might even become painful. So then I might even have a negative utility value. This is possible as well. If I keep eating too much, it'll be painful to me. So my utility will decrease. So yeah, something like that. Yeah. So yeah, that's what we
For
call
the
like.
quantity,
Mhm.
for the quantity, does it always increase by one, or can it be like 0, 2, 4, something like that?
That's a really good question. Usually in our previous assignments, it always increased by 1. But who knows? Maybe Miss Lim might do like, oh, quantity might be 0, then 5, then 10. But your marginal utility
I
is
mean,
always going to be referring to like one additional.
so yeah, that's why I'm asking. So now for marginal utility, it would be just like the denominator
Yeah, the denominator will be
so
like, let's say for example.
one.
Oh wait, sorry, continue your question. My bad. I interrupted
So will it always be one?
you. Denominator won't necessarily always be 1. That's a really good question though. Because marginal utility is only for one additional product. So in the case like let's say for example, I show you, oh, from 0 to like I eat 5 sushi at once. And then my utility for that 5 sushi is like 10. Because the first 5 sushi, I'm very happy with that first 5 sushi. So then in that case, even though you'll notice that it jumps by 10, notice that we don't really want to see the jump by 10. This is not our marginal utility. Our marginal utility is for, actually, how about you have a guess here? What do you think our marginal utility would be in this case? Based on like the stuff that we have.
Marginal
Because in this one, it won't be divided by 1.
one, two.
Yeah, it would be 2. How do you get 2?
10 minus 0 over 5 minus 0.
Yeah, that's correct. So it'll be like 10 minus 0 over 5 minus 0. So you'll notice that for this 5, even though my utility increased by 10, I want to see how much the increase per sushi, not for per 5 sushi. So it'll be 10 divided by 5. Kind of like something like this, right? Like for if I have like 5 sushi. Okay, I'm gonna try drawing sushi. If I have like 5 sushi, 3, 4, 5. Maybe when I eat these 5 sushi, it's going to increase by 10. But my margin, this is not my marginal utility. On the what you actually want to call it for marginal utility is this one. Let me just also usually you can replace margin, you can abbreviate it
Tuesday?
into
Truck
MU.
దగ్గర తినేకు.
Oh, by the way, Rishikesh, you unmute.
9:10 11 అవుతుంది ఇప్పుడు వండుకొని నాకు 8 o'clock class.
Rishikesh,
సరే. Yo,
Your mic is
you're,
on.
how's the
you're
sound?
unmuted.
How's the sound, bro?
You're unmuted.
Class. Yo, I have a doubt. If we increase 0.5 instead of 1 utility, like from 2 to 0, like 2.5, is it possible?
It's possible as well. Like sometimes you might have like you might eat half a box of cookies. Then yeah, you can have that. Also, wait. Okay, so hold on. So yeah, it's entirely possible for you to get 0.5 of the product as well. The quantity might raise by 0.5. So in this case, maybe your marginal utility won't be 10, but it's always going to be the one for each additional product. So in this case, it'll be like 2, and then 2, and then 2, and then 2, and then 2. So yeah, this is our marginal utility for the quantity for one of these. So even though it's 10 here, we only want to see the marginal utility as like. So yeah, that's basically it. Does that answer your question, Youngwei?
No.
All right. Wait, is that a yep or a no? Because I can't tell. Okay, before we go on though, scale of 1 to 5, how's everyone doing on this? On this part specifically, not the entire thing, just on this part, the total and marginal calculations.
0.005.
0.005. Rishi.
Let's
No,
move
but
on.
you. Okay, move on. Okay.
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay, so yeah, this is basically how this will work. Now, next is so then this one you'll notice that. What do you notice? Okay, I want you guys to tell me something. Notice that for this one, as we increase the quantity, what happens to the marginal utility? Does it like stay the same? Does it decrease?
Decreases.
Yeah, it decreases. That's correct. Your marginal utility is always decreasing. Like at the start, you might have like, oh, it's very satisfying, but then as you keep buying the product, it gets less and less satisfying. So this is what we call the law of diminishing marginal returns. I'm gonna write that down. Law of diminishing marginal returns and marginal utility or marginal return. Sometimes it depends on what terminology they use, but in this case, I would say law of diminishing marginal utility. So your definition of it is basically as the quantity purchased increases or quantity of product increases rather, the marginal utility decreases. Because as we keep buying a product, we'll be less and less satisfied by it. Like if I want to buy a bottle of water, the first bottle of water is already enough. If I keep buying more, the 10th water bottle will be pointless to me. So yeah, as the quantity of product increases, the marginal utility decreases. So this is what we mean by law of diminishing marginal utility. So you might need to remember this. Okay, so now the last part, the most important part of today, the graph. So let's try to graph what we looked at just now, right? So what we looked at here was that, oh, marginal utility is 5, 4.5, 4, 2, 1, 0. For the sake of this explanation, I'm going to change the marginal utilities to become a bit simpler. Or rather, I'll just okay. Usually you have to calculate all the marginal utility. Just keep that in mind. So wait, hold on. Of course, not always it will be like a straight line. But for the sake of this explanation, I'm gonna show it that way just to demonstrate something. And just to keep it simple, actually. So yeah, notice the marginal utility will decrease by 0.5 each time. But this is not always true. Sometimes it'll be like more like a curve. You'll see this another time. 19.5, 21. Wait, no. I cannot map it parallel. Hold on. 17.0, 20.0, 22.5. Okay, so we have this. This is our marginal utility. The more important part, the marginal utility. In your graph, your total utility will usually be useless. We'll usually be looking at marginal utility. So why am I talking about marginal utility also? So our graph, if they ask you to draw a marginal utility graph, you'll usually put your MU on the y-axis and your quantity on the x-axis. So this part usually everyone is fine. Where you can just plot out the graph. Let's say we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's say we start at marginal utility. Hold on, I need to check to make sure I didn't miscalculate this. Because there was a mistake that I made during the. Give me a moment. When I was doing the homework that made me that I had to mark. Okay, let me just check on that. I'll be really quick because it was a pretty small issue, but still relevant. Hold on, yeah. I'm looking at another tab. You guys won't see it. But yeah, take this moment just like absorb what you've learned so far. Okay, yeah, with this, yeah, marginal utility. Okay, I just had to check something. So this one. So quantity is 0, marginal utility is not available because we didn't add anything yet. So this one we put NA. Don't put 0 marginal utility, don't put infinity marginal utility either. Just put NA. So there's no plot for that. Then for quantity of 1, your marginal utility would be 5. So we can plot that already right away. So we have 5, then we have maybe at 4 at 2 we had 4.5. Then at 3 we had honestly, okay. Okay, this is probably a good place for me to start talking about jumps. So let's talk about that real quick. Let's say, for example, you don't want to start at 1. Because you'll notice that here, there's no point in like putting the 1 on the y-axis. Because you won't go as far as 1 because it'll only reach until 2.5. So you'll never usually use 1 in this case. So in that case, what we can do is what we call the jump. And your jump is usually represented by like something like a heartbeat or a squiggly, or not squiggly, like a zigzag line. You can draw it however you like. There's no like specific way to do it. Just make sure it looks something like a zigzag or a heartbeat, and you should be fine. So yeah, this is usually meant to represent. Oh, there's a jump in the scale. So 0 to maybe 2.5. Then you can do 3. Then 3.5. And then 4. And then 4.5. So yeah, something like that. So we notice a jump in the scale. And you don't have to write, 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5. You don't have to write all that. Use the heartbeat symbol. That's one thing I need to tell you. So from quantity 1, then quantity 2. Actually, wait, before I go on, is there any question? What question do you guys have on the heartbeat thing? Is everyone clear on this? Scale of 1 to 5. Because I know some people have trouble with it. If you're clear, just type clear in chat or unmute and stay clear. Youngmin, Rishikesh, and Hyunjun.
I'm clear.
All right, then I
I'm
think the
good.
heartbeat. Okay, all right. So I guess the heartbeat should be. So now we can plot the graph, right? So we have five, quantity at 1, your marginal utility is 5. Then quantity at 2, marginal utility is 4.5. Then you can keep plotting. Like 3 is 4.0, 3.5 is 4 is 3.5, and then 5 is 3.0. Then 6 is 2.5. This is supposed to be a straight line, but because I plotted it very weirdly, it's not actually a straight line. But kind of pretend it's a straight line. Sometimes, of course, you won't have straight line in your exam. Sometimes it will be a curve, and sometimes it might be a curve in a different way. But always remember marginal utility is decreasing. So yeah, just adapt based on the situation. So let's talk about this. This is what we call the marginal utility curve. And the most important thing about it is you have to know what we know as consumer optimization. Because this is the part that confuses most people. So consumer optimization, let's talk about that, right? Consumer optimization is basically how many of the product should the consumer buy. So in this case, I haven't given you the necessary information to actually tell you how much of a product is. So let's say that the sushi is in this case it costs 3 ringgit per sushi. One sushi equals 3 ringgit. So the price is at 3 ringgit. So now the important part is recognizing at what point your optimization point is what we know as the point in which okay, I'll probably show it here instead. Optimization point is where your marginal utility is equal to the price. So your marginal utility of x is equal to the price of x. So yeah, if we want to find the point at which the consumer optimization occurs, then you have to find the point at which marginal utility is equal to the price. So let me just write this down. Point where, and then this is usually the point at which it will tell you the quantity. So can someone tell me, what do you think the optimization point of this is? How many sushi should I actually buy?
Five.
Yeah, 5. How do you know it's 5? Youngmin? Oh wait, let me check chat.
Right.
Yeah, Hyo also said 5. Yeah, Youngmin? Youngmin, you there? Yeah, just
You
explain to me.
assume that
Mm-hmm.
1 ringgit is one marginal utility and you find 3.0
Yeah, exactly. That's correct.
and then you
So you
find the
can
quantity.
yeah, exactly. So at the price of 3 ringgit, and then the marginal utility will be equal to that part. So in this case, if your price is 3 ringgit, like what you said, like we assume that 1 ringgit is equal to one marginal utility, then you have to recognize that your marginal utility has to be 3 because it has to be equal to your price. 3 equal 3. 1 ringgit is one marginal utility. So 3 ringgit, 3 marginal utility is equal to 3 ringgit. So yeah, like basically like what you said. So in this case, and you also notice that this you will look at where the 3.0 is, and that's exactly at the quantity of 5. Because that is where at this point, this is where your mu is equal to p, where your 3 over here is equal to rm3. So yeah, there's that. I'm gonna show you a bit more about consumer surplus. But yeah, this is what we call it consumer optimization point. But why is this what we call the consumer optimization point? Why should a person buy until they reach 5 of the product? So this is the main question, right? So why should a person buy five of the sushi? I mean, we can tell that, oh, it's because MUX equal PX at this point. Uh, Buy 5 sushi because over here is where MU could be. By the way, I forgot to label this, but don't forget you label your line as MU. You need to label, even though you already put MU up here, you have to label this line as MU as well, the MU curve. Or you can even write it as MU/DD. Because here's the thing about the MU curve. Your MU is actually the same thing as your DD curve. Which is a bit hard to explain, but yeah. Oh, wait. Wait, why do I feel like I did something? Hold on. Let me just check something real quick. Oh yeah, no, never mind. Marginal utility, yeah. So this is your MU/DD curve. Make sure you label that part. So this is the point at which it'll be MU equals P. So therefore, because we know that the quantity is 5, at 3.0, we buy 5 sushi. But then the question is, why do we buy 5 sushi? So that's where I need to lead you guys to talk about consumer surplus. So let me just delete, because we kind of already know that our person wants to buy 5 sushi because that's where MU is equal to 2. But why are we buying 5 sushi? Why don't we buy just 4 or 3? I'll explain exactly why, like right now. Hold on. So I'm going to shade a region that we call as consumer surplus. And I'll tell you exactly why we call that the consumer surplus. So this is what we call consumer surplus. But why do we call it that? So let's talk about the point before the buying price sushi. Also, wait, let me share this slide so you can check on the previous ones while I teach. If let's say at any point you want to check something before this, or you want to copy a certain part, I'll send that in chat. But basically, the reason why your consumer optimization occurs here is because this is the point at which it is worth it. But why then do we not stop before that? So let's give like an example, right? So let's say I buy 1 sushi. At the point at which I buy 1 sushi, my marginal utility is equals to 5. 1 sushi, marginal utility is 5. Notice then that this means that your marginal utility is far greater than your price. Your price was RM3, remember? So price is equal to RM3. So in this case, your marginal utility is greater than your price. This means that your marginal utility is 5 greater than 3. So if let's say my marginal utility is greater than my price, am I very happy or am I sad about the additional quantity? Do I feel like it's more than worth it, or do I feel like it's not worth it at all? What do you guys think?
Worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it, exactly. Because I feel like, oh, I would actually buy the sushi if it was 5 ringgit, because that's how good it is at the first bite. When I first ate the sushi, my satisfaction was 5. And that's far greater than the price that I bought it at. So of course I would think that, oh, this is actually a steal, because the sushi was extremely worth it to me. It gave me a satisfaction of 5, even though I only paid 3. So that's what we mean by a consumer surplus condition. So this is what we call a consumer surplus, where your marginal utility is greater than your price. Where I feel so happy that I think that my value, the satisfaction of product that gave me was much more valuable than what I paid for it, in that sense. And notice that, and of course, if my consumer surplus exists, do you think I would buy another product, or do you think I would stop buying the product? What do you guys think? Should I keep buying the product or should I stop?
Continue.
Yeah, you would continue. That's correct. So we go on to 2 sushi. So in this case, your MU is equals to 4.5. So of course, notice that my MU is still going to be greater than my price. I still feel like it's more worth it to me than what I paid for. So I'll keep buying. So in this case, I'm very happy. I'm a very happy person. and I would still keep buying over here because I still feel like I'm happy with this purchase. So it's like, oh, at first it's like 5 is greater than 3. Then I'm still happy with it. I'll keep buying more because if I buy more, I'm still gonna get value out of it. Because the value of it, in my opinion, the satisfaction value is greater than the price. So I should keep buying it because the satisfaction that gives me is more worth it to me than the price that I paid for it. So I'm still very happy with my purchase. So I keep doing this for, let's say I go into three sushi, for example. So yeah, I think you guys get the idea. Three sushi equals 4.0. 4.0 is greater than 3. 4 is greater than 3, and I'm still very happy I purchased. I feel like, oh, this is still very much more worth it than what I paid for it. So 4 greater than 3. And my surplus keeps continuing. I still experience a consumer surplus, so I keep buying the product. I'm still very happy about the product until I reach 3, where I am happy about the product, but I'm not. I feel like it's exactly how much it's worth. Where I feel like, oh, it's 3 equal 3. That means that the satisfaction that it brings me is equal to the price I paid for it. It's exactly worth it. So yeah, in this case, that's what we call I increase the quantity of X. Okay, what question do you guys have about this, about consumer surplus? Also, the reason why we shade this region as consumer surplus is because this actually represents the difference between our price and our MU. So this is actually what we call the surplus. So for example, at 1, my surplus is 2. Then in this case, my surplus was, let's say, 2.5. Wait, sorry. Wait, I made up. In this case, it was 2. In this case, it was 1.5. In this case, it was 1. So this is kind of my surplus. Like how much additional value did I get out of it compared to what I paid? So yeah, that's what we call our consumer surplus. And then I should stop at the optimization point because that's where I feel like it's exactly worth the price. Then of course, if I keep going, I wouldn't be as happy about it anymore. Because now I feel like, oh, 2.5 is less than 3. So it's actually less worth it than what I paid for. So yeah, something like that.